Hi there. My name is John, and I'm going to do a video on social distancing. Um, I hope that everyone is doing well and comes to peace with reality. And I guess that's part of my effort here in making this video is things have been going quite differently the last couple years ever since COVID. Um, there's a lot going on. There's a lot in the news um, as far as information about what's been happening. See, for a while I lived alone and I went to work. I work in a restaurant as a cook. I'm not that great at it, but whatever. I work to pay my bills, and in my time off for many years, I spent a lot of my time reading books, turning away from watching too much stuff and taking in information through videos and audio and just reading and praying. Um, Trying to get back to that, but I'm also trying to get information out to people, try to be helpful with what's going on and life in general. Not a great success story, but Jesus succeeded where I couldn't and rescued me from being a drunk for years and rescued me from somewhat suicidal thoughts, depression, uh, not being able to handle reality and participate in life with people. So, thank the Lord for that. This is a book I started reading about this time last year. It's called On Killing. It's by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. I'm a veteran. I was in the Army from 18 to 20. Did 2 years, volunteered for that, joined the Airborne, went to Fort Bragg, went to Baghdad. Been kind of a fighter, I guess. I had maybe a little bit of little man syndrome as a kid. I was the shortest kid in my class up until sophomore year of high school. Started wrestling. Had always looked into like martial arts. Always thought that that would be interesting, and because of God changing my mind about a lot of things, I'm in a lot better health than I used to be. I'm a lot more physically fit than I used to be. I work manual labor pretty much. I have to think, but a lot of my job is moving my body around. And anyway, social distancing, that's been a term they've put out. And this book on killing, it's about the effects that combat has on people and why it was less likely for somebody to actually be willing to kill in war. From World War One to Vietnam, that changed. The psychological, behavioral training implement and social distancing came up in this book, and it was written long before COVID. Let's see when. 1995, and he wrote about social distancing in combat and how different social classes and the distance between them can either prevent people from being willing to kill or make them more willing to kill. Here's what his term, social distance, on page 160 of his book says about social distance, which considers the lifetime of practice in thinking of a particular class as less than human in a socially stratified environment. Page 169, it goes on and explains, in nearly all historical battles prior to the age of Napoleon, the serf who looked down his spear or musket at the enemy saw another hapless serf, very much like himself, and we can understand that he was not particularly inclined to kill his mirror image. And so it is that the great majority of close combat killing in ancient history was not done by the mobs of serfs and peasants who formed the great mass of combatants. It was the elite, the nobility, who were the real killers in these battles, usually in the pursuit phase after the battle, on horseback or from chariots, and they were enabled by, among other things, social distance. And what he's saying is basically people see people. If they see their face, if they see them up close, they see them as human. They see them as someone like them. And they're very unlikely to be inclined to kill another human being. And the reason he's saying that if you read the book, it talks about combat veterans who have had to kill other human beings. The traumatic effects and the repercussions of that is harder on men who have had to kill others in combat than those who have been injured or those who have seen others die. And that's because we're human. And it might have something to do, I am convinced it does, it has something to do with the fact that all human beings were created in the image of God, and to kill another human being, as God says in his 10 Commandments, not to do. That's kind of a slap in the face to our Creator. Anyway, talking about news and what's going on, I think everyone should read Acts 17, that chapter in Acts in the New Testament of the Bible, where Paul is preaching to the people in Athens. Because Paul is preaching to people in Athens, and it says at that time in Athens, everyone was kind of inclined to want to hear something new, something they hadn't heard before. Well, that's pretty similar to our society. We like to hear about the new TV show, the new music, the new news of some science that's discovered, the new thing. In Acts 17, verses 24 to 27, Paul says this: God, that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worshipped with men's hands as though he needed anything. Seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and have determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitations, that they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him, and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. And in Ephesians, Paul writes, For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now, if you think back to what I read from this other book, where in ancient times in combat, the main killers, the ones who were killing close up, as most humans aren't inclined to do, and it kind of sickens us and it causes trauma, the main ones who were doing that were the elite, the nobility. Now, the elite and the nobility, they're probably not these days going out and hand-to-hand killing people. In fact, I don't see much evidence of that. But think about that when it comes to social distancing and the way he put it, which considers a lifetime of practice in thinking of a particular class as less than human in a socially stratified environment. Now, when you see another human being, you see their face, you see them as a human. If everyone's wearing masks, less likely to see the whole face. You can't see if somebody's smiling at you. You can't see if they're grimacing at you. You can't really hear a lot of what's being said by people because the mask is muffling that. Do you think, because I do, and I might be wrong, but do you think that it's possible that the elites that want people wearing these masks have less inclination to think about doing that for people's health and protection, and maybe some inclination of doing that to socially stratify this environment to where people won't see people as humans and would maybe be more inclined to harm one another? I think so. I think that's why there's mask mandates. I think, and it says the whole lifetime. Now, we haven't, most people my age and even a little younger and older people haven't had a whole lifetime of thinking that way. But the fact is, they're wanting to put this onto children. They're wanting vaccines given to children. They're wanting the mask mandates to be younger and younger. You know, at first they couldn't fathom mandating toddlers wearing masks because they're not good for people's health. And it's not just physical health, but think of mental health. spiritual health. If you walk around and you think that everybody's wearing a mask, it used to be, there's a girl I work with that started there a few months back, and she used to work at a bank, and she was complaining, talking about how people weren't wanting to wear the masks inside the bank, even though that's the rule. That's a change. That's a new thing. Because back when I was a kid, if you thought about going into a bank wearing a mask, you'd be the one feared. The one wearing the mask would be the one feared because you're trying to cover yourself up, maybe trying to rob the place. But now everybody's got to wear one, so we can't see your face. This is a rambling. I'm sorry. This is supposed to be very concise. I would suggest reading On Killing by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, because it's talking not just to veterans, not just to people who have been in combat, but it's an analysis of what causes people to not see people as humans, what causes people to be willing to kill one another. And we've gotten to a point in our society now where the enemy could be anybody. Joe Biden in a speech months ago said that his patience and the vaccinated people's patience was running out for the people that were choosing not to be vaccinated. And we're being told to trust the science. Well, there's science saying that the vaccines might not be working, might have some effects on people that aren't good. And there's science saying that they don't know. They don't know what these variants are, where they came from. They don't know. But yet they're making orders for people to follow, even though they admit they don't know everything about this virus. One fact is, there are people out there that may have never been tested, may have had COVID, may have had hardly any symptoms, may have spread it a little bit, and may have recovered from it and be immune to it. One thing I do know is you could trust the Lord. You could trust the Lord God Almighty, who created everything, who knows exactly what you need, exactly who you are, everything you've done. Same with me. He knows everything. And he says we could trust on him, and we could turn away from our sins, and there'll be healing, not just of our spirit, but of our mind, body. You can trust that. Everyone should start reading the Bible. And if I were to ask some people, do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead? They might answer, no, because it's unbelievable. And I could tell them, well, no, it's not unbelievable because I believe it. And millions of people throughout history have believed it. And he actually did rise from the dead. And what would that do? What would that do to change your life? To think, what if he really did get up from the grave? What if he really did? Because he really did. Think about it, please. May God bless you and bring grace to you and peace, and take care of you and all your needs for your well-being. Please start looking into things carefully. Start questioning things and start asking God in prayer for those answers, because they will come in his way, in his time. God bless you.